Yesterday, I texted the suicide hotline, and it was really interesting because, of course, they were working for the FBI. They asked me questions about being hypnotized. When was the first time I was hypnotized? The last time I was hypnotized? How did they hypnotize me? And the first time they hypnotized me was I was homeless and I had my tent right next to the railroad tracks, and they hypnotized me while having the train going by over and over. And I told them that. And then the second time when I was at Pathways and in I think it was Montana, and they had all these people walking by. I was standing next to the desk in the front, and they had all these people walking by to the left, to the right, and then there was more people and more people and more people. And I looked, and they'd like have people that I might have recognized, and I'd be like, whoa! Like there was like this woman in the Dallas, Oregon. Her name was Ellie, and she was Native American. And they had this through this window, this dividing or this glass window. They had all these people walking by, and then it was like this little girl walked by, but she had the face of this woman named Ellie, and I'm like, Ellie, and so like, and then they had other people walking by that were familiar or looked familiar. And then they had all of my kids there. My daughter Michelle, she came up to me. There was like two Michelles, one on the left and one on the right. And I'm like, Michelle. The one on the left kept talking, and I knew that wasn't Michelle, so I turned to the one on the right, and I'm like, Michelle. And she kind of said something, and I immediately realized that was my daughter, the one on the right. I wanted to tell the one on the left to shut the fuck up because I wanted to talk to my daughter. And I'm like, Michelle, I love you. And she just kind of looked down at the ground. And the lady on the right that looked exactly like Michelle, she started talking louder and louder. And then they went away. And then I noticed my son. He looked like my son, one of my sons, Curtis, in the main room, but he looked like he had a nose disguise on. And I kind of said, hi, how's it going? And that's all I said to him. And then they had my other son there, and he pulled his mask down, and I immediately recognized him. I'm like, Kevin! And he goes, uh-huh. And he had a smile on his face. But I had this huge parasitic monster in my stomach at the time, moving around and stuff, and so it was hard to act normal. I wasn't acting the way I normally would. And then they just, the more and more people they had walk by me, and I don't know what happened. It was like I must have turned a certain way. They come up to you after a certain point, and they just kind of give you a good shove in the middle of your torso. And then you just fall right over, and you're immediately hypnotized. They did that to me at Pathways. And then they grabbed me, and they dragged me back to my room so they could ask me questions. And then they dragged me back to my room, and I was so hypnotized. I remember I couldn't open my eyes, and they came up to me, and they leaned over the top of me, and they kind of opened up my eyes to I think to make sure I was hypnotized or something, or to make sure I was looking at them. And that's when they asked me the questions: do I like little kids? Do I like killing people? Stuff like that. And and then, like, I think I still might have been really hypnotized. They said, "Oh, there's someone in the other room that wants to talk to you," and I didn't know who it was, but it was one of my other sons, Brody, and he was in a disguise to look like Todd, and he looked almost exactly like him. And I went up to him, and he motioned for like me to hug him, and I was like, I couldn't help myself. I wrapped my arms around him and I squeezed him tight and I shook him from left to right because I was hugging him so hard. And then I let him go, and then I felt kind of ashamed for just squeezing the shit out of a stranger. And I started crying, and I said I'm sorry, and I think it was because I knew he looked like Todd, but I'm thinking this can't be Todd, so who is it? Todd's dead. And then, oh yeah, after the time when they hypnotized me at Pathways, I was so terrified that I didn't want to leave my room again, because I thought if I left my room, they were gonna do it to me again. And I remember I was so terrified because you can't move your arms and you can't move your legs, and you're completely helpless, and you can't do anything. And you're compelled to tell the truth, and you can't really move or anything. So that's why they didn't hypnotize me anymore there. But then I forgot about it. And then when I went to Denver, I was watching this guy, and he was walking down the street, and he was wearing this weird disguise. It would look like he wasn't a human being. And I looked at him, and I was like, what the hell? Why does he look like that? That's weird. And then he was looking at me, and then he kept on walking down the street, and then he turned and looked at me. And I'm like, why is this guy looking at me? So I kept on watching him. And then he walked down the street, and I watched him as he walked way down the street. Then he turned left again on another street, and I watched him as he walked down that street. And then he turned to walk up another street, and I lost sight of him. And that's when they came up behind me and pushed me, and I fell into the fence, and I knocked my head on the fence. And right before I got hypnotized, this really cute and sexy FBI agent came by me, and he's like, and I go, hey, look at this guy. He goes, he's watching you and you're watching him. And I was almost tempted to stop watching him and watch this guy, because he was so fucking fine. And God, that guy was so fucking cute. And that's when I realized that this guy wasn't the FBI agent that I knew by the name of Kip from the Dowels, because he said something to me. I can't remember what it was. And I think they hypnotized me again somewhere. I'm not. Oh no, wait. I think that might have been the last time. And then I was when I was walking home, and they did some weird thing with me where he's like, come on. He was all of a sudden he was down the street at this other spot, and he's like, come in here, and I think you should come in here because if you're under hypnosis, you're under your suggestions. Like if someone suggests something to you, then you're more suggestible. And I'm like, okay. And I came in there, and I'm like, do you want to smoke some pot? And he's like, sure. And then he pointed to somebody, and it looked like somebody was smoking meth, and the smoke was going all everywhere. And since I didn't want to breathe it in, I thought I was going to breathe it in on accident. I started gasping for air. I grabbed my bag and I ran off as fast as I could. I didn't want to get it in my system. And when I walked back to the shelter, the Catholic shelter there in Denver, I was like, I remembered they hypnotized me. That's when I remembered, and then I remembered everything, how they hypnotized me in I think it was Montana at Pathways, and how they hypnotized me in Denver, or in Denver, Montana, and Oregon. They were really interested in the questions that they asked me. They asked me if I worship the devil or if I'm possessed by the devil, and they asked me why would they ask you that, and I said I don't know. And what else did they ask me? See that house? There's a house to the left and the house to the right of the address that I'm in. They all got this, I don't know if it's some sort of metallic material over all their windows so you can't see in. And I know that it's jam packed with FBI agents over here to the right, and over here, the house over here to the left. And so you can't see in. Every time every time you go outside, they will pump the gases. They'll start pumping gases, different variations of the parasitic gases outside from their residence. And I went out last night to this little swing bench, and I sat on there for a little bit, looking up at the sky. I talked to God a little bit, and they started. I think I smelled. They were started to smell different gases. There's like sweet smell, and they have all sorts of different smells. But then I went back inside. I came back out a while later, and the swing chair had been opened up, and it was all wet. That's when I realized that some kind of FBI agent had went out there and sprayed it with parasites. So I flipped it over, and I laid on it with my blanket. And a little while later, here comes some kind of plane above, dumping parasitic gases on me, right over the top of me. Getting all sorts of birds today. Is that a dove? Doesn't look like a pigeon. And let's see here. And as I was laying there, they were changing up the parasitic gases outside. and I heard people on the other side of the fence or behind the house walking around. I knew they were getting ready to come and dump liquid parasites on my head if I fell asleep. So I just got up and came back inside. My little bird feeder. They wanted to know about my drug use, when I've used, when's the last time I used, and all this and that. I think because they wanted to find out if Jerry Martin Smith was a liar. Because I found out when I was in the Dalles, um, Jerry Martin Smith had told the FBI agent named Kip that he told him that I was coming hard off of heroin and that I needed some meth to come off of it with, which is totally ridiculous in the first place. It's ridiculous. So, he showed up at our campsite and he's like, well, here's a dope. He had this huge, like $100 thing of dope, $100 or more, and he gave it to Jerry, and he goes, well, I want to see you give it to her, cause that's for her. And Jerry was gonna probably keep it for himself, like he usually did, and then he handed it to me, and like I didn't really want it. I wanted marijuana, is what I wanted. But I was like, fuck it, because I had to put up with Jerry. I had to put up with Jerry Martin Smith calling me a nigger, cunt, a nigger bitch, a nigger whore, nigger slut, any combination of nigger you could have. He called me that morning, noon, and night, yelling and screaming at me. He'd never let me sleep. And the put downs and other shit that he did to me, the torture. So I was like, well, fuck it, and it's free, so I'll take it. And but I never would have bought it at that point. And just because it was free, I took it. But they were putting the parasites into the dope and everything that I was consuming. In fact, they would pump Jerry full of parasites. I think they'd put parasites in dope that he was going around town and getting high on. And then when he came back, they must have given him a parasite pill or something, an anti-parasite pill, because when he'd come back to the tent, he'd lay down and go to sleep, and all of a sudden, all these things, these parasitic creatures, would start coming from his body over to my body because he took the anti-parasite pills, so they'd all come crawling out. And they'd all crawl into my body. So even if I wasn't using dope or anything, they'd get me loaded with parasites by him, because they'd load him up. Lots of times he would, I'd have him, I said, can you massage my feet? And he's like, sure. And then he'd rip my feet open to give the parasites away to come into my body. I know my heart is really stressed. I feel it. Eventually, I'm going to have a heart attack, or it's just going to stop. I'm not sure. But I told them if they turn the gases up too high, I'm gonna leave. I mean, it's right now, it's almost unbearable. I can't. It's hard for me to stay in this house. Everything, every every cell in my body is telling me, get out of this house. You're gonna die. Get out of this house. You're gonna die. But it's like there's nothing I can do. I'm supposed to die. I'm being murdered, and if I don't die here, I'm gonna die somewhere else. But I mean, if they turn it up any higher, I'll probably just go. I mean, as high it is right now, it's high enough to kill me. I mean, it's going to kill me. But if they turn it up, I'm just gonna leave. I've decided. I mean, if I feel myself getting close to dying, like immediately, I'm not gonna stay here. Man, like right now, I can feel myself dying. So, but I told them I'd rather die. I'd rather die here than anywhere else. They keep wanting me to go to the hospital to get more medication, get more parasite pills. I don't really want to die. I really don't. I want to live. This is very, very, very difficult for me. But all these people that are murdering me, I have to forgive them. And I told God I forgive them for what they're doing to me. Because that's what God would want me to do. And look at, see, there's their windows. They're all covered with this metallic shit. Every single window that they have is covered with this stuff. Both houses. Every time I go to the store to get groceries or something, I have people walking by me giving me rude fucking comments and shit. I just have to ignore it. They're just stupid, ignorant cunts that don't know what the fuck they're doing. You'll never murder a nicer person than me. I can guarantee it. I don't want to fight. I don't want to argue with people. I don't like confrontations. If I don't get along with somebody, I'd rather just fucking leave the room. That's why that cunt Margarita, every time I'd come out of my room, she'd come fucking barreling out of her fucking room too. Just so she could be a cunt to me. Look at all their windows. All their windows are covered with that shit. Oh. Yeah. If they turn it up any higher, I won't be staying here. This is probably the most difficult thing I've ever had to do in my life. Sit here and be murdered. They won't even tell me why I'm being executed. What the hell? Yeah. Sometimes I dry heave and vomit into a bag. My blood pressure keeps going up. I wish they'd just put me in the electric chair or give me a lethal injection. I'm going to try to get a DNR today. But I don't really think that they would try to bring me back to life if I died, so. But I'm going to get one anyway. You know, I think sometimes we're all tested just like Job was in the Bible. I believe that everybody's tested like that. Everybody. You know? The devil will probably be like, well, God, do this to her. See if she still loves you then. Well, God, do that to her. See if she still loves you after that. See if she's still faithful to you. Let this happen to her. See if she follows your commandments. I know I'm being tested. I know everybody's being tested. No one will ever shake my faith in my God. That's one thing I know. Never, never, never. I love Jesus, and I always have. I'll never stop loving the Lord. I know He's waiting for me. Yeah, I know Todd's waiting for me too. I can't wait to see him. We got a lot of people on the other side I want to see. If you're one of those people that's going to be going to heaven, you'll see me there. We can talk about all the crazy shit that's happened, and we can worship the Lord for all eternity. It's going to be pretty awesome. I can't wait till my torture is over. It'll be over soon. No doubt. Anyways, really don't have much else to say, except I'm dying.